Timberwolves, my name is Angela Riggs. You might also know me as Mrs. Riggs, Mr. Riggs's wife. Today I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about what I call modern calligraphy or hand lettering. This is the art of drawing words and letters. Not writing, it's not cursive, it's very different. We're actually going to engage in a different part of your brain to teach you a new skill using a skill that you already have, which is knowing how to write. So follow along with me. Anytime that your pen is moving upward, it's a thin stroke. Anytime your pen goes downwards, it's a thick stroke. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, today we're using a regular pen, but there are special pens that if you really get into calligraphy or modern calligraphy, you can use something called a brush pen. And the brush pen has a really flexible tip. So if I was gonna do a thin stroke, I just go up really smoothly and down really thick. That's the beauty of a brush pen. Some of you may have these at home. For today's purposes, I'm gonna teach you how to do this using a regular monoline marker, which means there's no flexibility to it. So your Crayola Super Tips, pencils, ballpoint pens, those are all monoline pens. So in order to mimic what a brush pen can do for you with your thin stroke going upward and your thick stroke going downward, you're gonna do that using a second line. Let me show you what I mean. So if I'm gonna do the letter A in cursive, I start at the bottom and I go up, which is a thin stroke, and down, which should be a thick stroke. But since I'm using a monoline, I need to thicken this line on my own. And I do that by just adding a second line and filling it in. You can fill it in solid, you can fill it in with stripes, you can fill it in with dots. The nice thing about drawing letters is that there are endless possibilities. But what you need to remember is thin stroke going up, thick going down. So this is the letter B. So let's do that again. So I went up here, so that stays thin, but I went down here, so I'm gonna thicken that line. I went up here, down here, so that's another thick line. And back over, we'll leave that one thin. A lot of people ask me, how do I know what side of the line to make thicker? Right? Because you saw me, I went on the outside here, but on the inside here. And really it's up to your own aesthetic. If I'm writing a word that's really squished together, sometimes I'll thicken the inside line. If I'm writing a word that has a lot of space in between, I'll thicken the outside of it. It just depends on that specific word. So you got to go with what you think looks the best for your art. And the amazing thing about modern calligraphy is that even though we're writing a word here, you're saying so much more than what the word means. The amazing thing about modern calligraphy is that you can emote through your font choice, through the colors that you choose, and even through the style of lettering that you choose to do. Color choice is important because colors also send a message. So if I wanted to write the word happy and I wanted to give somebody happy feelings, like maybe this is for a birthday card for a friend, I'm gonna start writing the word happy and I'm gonna use bright colors. So remember, thin strokes going up, thick strokes going down. So there's an H. And you see how I always flick the tail of my letter up. That's important for cursive because that's how you connect the next letter in. So I'm gonna do my A in red, thick going down, thin going up, thick going down, thin going up, going down. So that'll be what? Thick line, coming back up, thin, thick, thin. All right, let's keep going. I'm actually gonna do a rainbow. And that that looks pretty happy to me, as opposed to maybe using a brown and not using so many loops, right? So if I just said, they both say happy, but one gives me a happier feeling than another. So depending on what you're trying to do and what message you're trying to send, you can really integrate extra loops, colors, and different bounce in your letters. Where this is just very one line, these letters kind of dance around on the page. Using my monoline pen, which for you, it's gonna be just your standard markers, pencil or ballpoint pen. This is a felt pen. We're gonna do the basic alphabet in faux calligraphy. If you do get really interested in this, you can Google faux calligraphy and it will teach you even more about how to do what I'm doing here. There's lots of great videos by artists on YouTube. So we're gonna start with the letter A, and I'm just gonna go through the alphabet. So we'll start with the capital A. And remember, all of your downstrokes get thickened. That's what makes it look like you're using a fancy brush pen, but you're not. There's a capital A and a lowercase a. Again, this would be a downstroke that you fill in, and this one would be as well. And remember, there's no right way to fill in the inside or the outside, but this is a great example. Because I only left myself a little bit of space on this downstroke that needs to be thicker, if I do it on the inside, it might look like a K or an R. So I'm gonna fill in the outside of it to balance out the letter B a little bit better. So that's a thicker line here. And then on the bottom half, because it's so round here, I'm going to fill in the inside part of it to make that part thicker, just to give this letter a little bit better balance. Do you see what I did there with my downstrokes? And here's my lowercase b. And same thing, there is no universal rule for which side of your line you make thicker. Just depends on what you're creating, what you want people to think and feel, or maybe what you're thinking and feeling at the moment, and the composition of the word itself. Remember, your downstrokes are thick and your upstrokes stay thin. So what I do, because sometimes I lose track, is without touching the paper, I'll retrace like how I wrote it. So if this goes down, I know it needs to be thicker, and then that's up, so I don't do anything to it. I'm coming down and I'm making that thick again. Here's a great example of a decision that I need to make on making the inside the thicker part or the outside the thicker part. If I make the outside the thicker part, it's gonna kind of ruin the roundness of the D here. So I'm gonna choose to thicken from this side of the D. And you'll see that. After you practice for a little while, you'll see what decisions you're making and you may change your mind. Just remember, don't overthink it. It's all about blind, dumb confidence. Believe that you can do it, and you can. Create something today, even if it kind of stinks. Because when you go back and look at it a year from now, a month from now, or even a week from now, you'll look back and say, wow, you know what? That was a lot better than I gave myself credit for. And that's really where the life lesson came in for me with my calligraphy, because I could see in the roundness of my letters that whenever I started to get in my head and think, oh my gosh, how am I doing this? I'm not doing it right. It's not going to connect. It's not going to look good. Why did I choose that color? What am I even doing? I'm not an artist. All of a sudden my lines would get wobbly. So just lean into the discomfort and create something, even if it stinks. So let's practice a couple words together. And when in doubt, you can always embellish your drawings with a little laurel for fun. Thanks for learning with me today and for taking a leap and practicing drawing words instead of writing words.